Hi, this is the Urban Lady Prepper, and this is part two of my interview with Shonda Sinclair discussing the van life and the nomadic lifestyle. We discuss food, gear, nomadic pluses and minuses, and how living the van life with children can get tricky. Get ready to take even more notes. Enjoy. A quick question about food, because obviously you can't bring a whole lot of that with you. And as a prepper person who's used to having a place to store stuff or being able to grow stuff, how do nomadic people get around that? If they know they need to have food, you can't exactly get an Amazon delivery. So how do you guys do it? Do you contribute to community gardens while you're traveling, or do some people have like makeshift little grow station? How do they manage that, or is that just something that you can't do?
Well, actually, I started a Facebook group called Van Life Pantry Dash Nomadic Pantry. And I did that in 2020 before we ever got on the road because I was doing R&D at the time. I was doing like, how do you deal with food on the road, and how do you cook, and how do you, it is a huge topic. And because we have to eat at least 3 or 4 times a day, right? We have to eat all the time. It's an important topic. It is a vast topic. But the long and short of it is, if you have enough ability to cool your food, if you have a cooler, some of the Yeti type coolers, and actually there are better ones on the market than Yeti. They have 3-inch thick walls. You can keep ice cold and icy for up to 7 days, and you can keep cold things in that cooler. If you have enough solar power to manage your portable battery setup, you can run a fridge. I have a 38 quart refrigerator. It has a fridge and a freezer side. I didn't use the freezer side because that takes a lot more power and you don't have to carry ice cream with you. But I 38 quarts turned out to be a little bit too large actually for 2 people on the road. But yeah, we had a fridge and we could carry our fridge things. But my group is all about teaching people how to do that and sharing recipes and information and wattage of cooking. People think they're going to bring their crock pot. Unless you have a class A RV and a what's called a shore power setup. When people say shore power, they mean connected to an electrical grid with your cord setup. So shore power means electricity. If you have shore power in your RV park, in your class A, you can have your crock pot or whatever. Otherwise, you're not going to have your hair dryer and you're not going to have your crock pot because it takes too much power. But
That's how people cook. It's like, if I don't have a microwave, then I'm just basically screwed.
Yeah, right. And but I went 15 years before I ever went nomadic. I went 15 years without a microwave because I don't like the microwaves. I don't like the radiation part of it. Of course, people say, well, your cell phone does the same amount of radiation. I don't like that either, but I had to mitigate, right?
Right. You mitigate where you can.
Yeah. So, you can have a fridge or you can not have a fridge. I share lists of foods that you can carry with you that don't need any refrigeration. I share lists of foods that keep well for a long time that are raw foods. Cabbage doesn't have to be refrigerated and can last a while. Carrots can last a while. There are ways to store them in water or other moisture so that they don't shrivel, and you can keep them a week without any refrigeration. You can use a backpacker stove. You can get the little teeny tiny backpacker stoves like the people use when they're doing long through hiking, like Appalachian Trail hikers use this tiny little stove. My friend who lives in
cool. Those are really cool. I mean, and I have like a camp stove. I'm sure those are a thing too.
Yes, I have one of those. I have a backpacker stove and I have an electrical hot plate that I can use when I have shore power. So I carry a few things. My friend who lives in an SUV, she uses an alcohol stove and it uses 100 proof alcohol. And you can get them outside. Yeah, it's really cool. And it's not combustible like propane or butane, which can explode if you storing it wrong or carrying it in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. I've seen a vehicle that caught fire and the entire vehicle burned down because
Oh,
of
wow.
improperly stored propane. There was a leak. Somebody lit a match.
Mm.
Boom. So there are dangers and there are things to learn and know about that. But there are all kinds of different cooking. There's baking. Okay, so if you want to bake on the road, some friends of mine that I've met in the last few years have a group called Omnia. Oh, I don't want to say it wrong. Stew and Edie Beans. Beans.
Okay.
They have a website, I think, called Little House of Beans, and they have a YouTube group, and it's all about this one pot. It's called an Omnia oven. It's a Swedish design, and it looks like a bundt cake pan,
Hmm.
and you put it on your camp stove, and it convection oven bakes your food. So
Awesome.
you can bake
Oh,
cake in your Omnia oven. You can bake cake.
I was gonna say you
You
could
can,
probably make some kind of bread.
oh my gosh, bread,
Oh,
casseroles. So their Little House of Beans YouTube channel has all kinds of things. And they recently came out with a cookbook that they've put together over the last 3 years.
oh my goodness!
Uh,
As soon as we're done, I am so checking that out.
and you can, if you don't have a camp stove and you don't have an Omnia oven, the cost for an Omnia is about $60, but one time $60 cost, and you've got your oven, to carry for years to come. If you don't have that, you can learn to use solar oven. One of the ladies on Nomad land, she carries a metal fold out solar oven. It takes a lot of hours and you have to be stationary in the sun to bake, but you can do it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
there
if
are
you're
people
baking
who
something
learn
like
how to,
bread, once you bake it, you have it for a week.
exactly. And there are people who learn how to make food on their car engine manifold while
Yes.
they're driving.
I saw one lady, she did ribs in her car. Like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
she doing?
And there are people who use the Road Pro oven, which is a 12 volt, and that's a name brand, but there are other brands that are very similar to the Road Pro. It is a 12-volt oven that you plug in. It takes about 3 hours to cook your food, but if you're on a 3 hour drive, you plug it in, you drive, and when you get there, you've got dinner.
Interesting. See, now I'm learning something. Now, folks, this is more prepping things that you can look into,
Yeah, a
especially
lot of the 12
considering
volt
being on the road
things are
going people with.
available at truck stops.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so for anyone who's thinking, because I know that the whole, with preppers, the whole bug in or bug out situation. So if you have to bug out, these are some cool things that you might want to consider to have with your bug out setup or having your bug out vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's excellent advice. Look at all the stuff I'm learning today. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you
would
for that.
say I think it's one of the most important cooking devices is either an alcohol stove from REI or some other place, the very similar alcohol stove, or a tiny backpacker stove with the little propane butane tanks, because those can fit in your bug out bag. And what we've learned from this current hurricane, but also Hurricane Katrina and any of the other big, huge natural disasters that have happened in the last 20 years, where towns were wiped out and people didn't have, their house is gone. They don't have it anymore, and they can't bug in because all the things they prepped in that house have been blown away and it's gone and it's a flattened space. So I think it's important to prep for bugging in and to always have a bug out bag available, and
Exactly.
to have your water and your tiny stove and your cookable, small pouches. You can, we also do a lot of the prepper pouches that you can buy. Costco carries
Hmm.
big canisters of prepper pouch foods
Yeah.
that you can have with you. I think those are important because when the grocery store is also flattened, or you don't have anything on the shelves because everyone in the disaster area has emptied the shelves,
Hmm.
you've got your bug out, you've got your bug out pouches, and those can last you. You can get a 90-day supply so
Yeah.
that you can get to somewhere else while you've got that supply with you.
Yeah. And we're on the verge of a strike that's so far has the green light to happen on October 1st. That's going to affect the supply chain. So that's something I
Yeah.
was going to do an announcement on anyway, that if there's anything you guys think you could need long term, get your canned goods, get powdered stuff, whatever it is you feel you need, because if the strike goes through and stores can't get their deliveries, then a lot of people are going to get caught out there if you don't have anything in your pantry. So get what you need to get now, just in case the strike happens. And if it doesn't happen, you have probably in your house what you should have had anyway for an emergency.
Well, I want to tell you about two people before we end this that I met along the way. And I'm not going to say where I met them or where they were when I met them, because one of them was a single woman with two kids. Mm-hmm. And technically, I'm guessing you're not allowed to be nomadic, houseless, homeless, without electricity and running water when you have children under 18. Most municipalities will take your children away. And I abhor that as a practice. I think it is absolutely ridiculous. And if we look back 150 years, nobody had those things. So why does that make you now not capable of caring for your kids?
And thank you for getting in there, because that's kind of where I wanted to steer into as, traveling with children. So that's excellent point. Now, do you find that that's pretty much across the country, or do you find that they're a little more lax in different places in the country? Did she get into that?
Well, interestingly enough, Arizona is one of the worst places for taking kids.
Really?
Ohio is bad. There are certain states that are worse. For medical kidnap of your kids, if they don't like whether or not you are taking them to their well checks and managing their health in the way that they think you should manage it, you can have your kids taken away.
Wow.
If you don't have the right food in your pantry, and you don't have a stationary dwelling, and you don't have a bathroom, and you don't have electricity, you can have your kids taken away in so many places. And so especially for those people, they are very much on the underground network quiet radar, under the, very stealth. I
completely understand that.
It was a delight to meet this woman and her kids. They traveled with a dog and a cat, and these kids were absolutely brilliant at speaking with all ages, because they are homeschooled. And they were extremely intelligent, very well spoken, very well read, because they don't have television. They read everything all the time. And so we got them some books, a couple of books that we had talked about and they hadn't read. And I'm like, oh, you'd love these books. And so we went out to where we knew they might be, and we gave them some books, and they were so happy to have them. But this mom is amazing. She has all the water they need. She is teaching her kids actual, real lifestyle survival skills, prepping. They know how to get what they need. They know how to get food. They know how to live without a shelter. I mean, they have shelter, they have a vehicle, and they have tents and whatever, but they know how to live that lifestyle that most, people don't know how to live.
And I'm just going to interject, because I'm a very big proponent of experience. And one of the things I'm very grateful for my family and my parents in particular, there was nothing exclusionary about my family. They were very big on, we want you to travel. We want you to hang out with these different people. We want you to hear these different languages. We want you to eat this different food, read about these different places, because they're such a danger. And we're terrible about this. I mean, it's everywhere, but I think we're terrible about this as Americans. You get in your little pocket, and then anything outside of that pocket is foreign and wrong and just all kinds of stuff. And when you put your kids in a position where they're traveling, and their travel in its own will eliminate a lot of prejudices, because at the end of the day, everybody wants the same stuff and they want to live the same life. We all need the same things. So I think they would learn that more, because they're seeing these different people in all different levels of life, from all different classes and backgrounds. And they're not just talking with kids their age, they're interacting with adults. So that's like they're all like the oldest child. Like the oldest child always knows how to relate better to adults, because they kind of were mini adults. I'm an only child, so that was definitely me. But you learn how to communicate better, because you're exposed to people in a completely different way and in a more open way, as opposed to just being stuck in a classroom learning what they think you're supposed to know in a community where you've never been out of. Because even as a New Yorker, I know people who grew up in New York their entire life, and they've never been out of New York. They've never been off of Long Island. They've never been out of Queens. And
exactly.
And it's a whole big thing if they went to Long Island, or if they lived on Long Island, which I don't know if you have a point of reference, but the New Yorkers know what I'm talking about. If you grew up on Long Island, the idea is like, oh my God, you went to Brooklyn? It's, what do you mean? You know, like it's a whole, like it's a foreign country. Like it's the worst thing you could ever do. And I just, it just blows my mind. So when I hear people saying, yes, I give the kid, you know, I'm glad I wasn't brought up that way. And
Yeah.
just like you say that people should live the van life for at least a month, I think that people should just live someplace else for at least a month. My thing was like everyone should live in Queens for a minute, because when you
Oh, I would
realize
love
all of these
that.
different
I
people,
would be so down for that.
yeah,
I
and
should take my nomadic self to Queens sometime.
because it's like, yeah, do we have our, you know, problems and issues getting along just like any place else, but I think more than any place else, everything is there, everybody is there. Yeah, it would be nothing for me to go to my Italian friend's house for dinner, or, you know, hang out with my Irish friends, or to hang out with my Hispanic friends and then go to an Indian wedding on Saturday. You know, you get to
Right.
see all of these different cultures and it just doesn't become a big deal, which is maybe a different experience for someone who maybe grew up in the Midwest and everybody looked like them and everybody ate the same food and everybody had the same, you know, ideas, good or bad. So I applaud that, definitely, nomadic community, because you kind of don't have a choice. You're going to have these different experiences, and the kids growing up with that, since that's all they know, there's really isn't a situation where they would be put in where they would be uncomfortable. They would know
Yeah.
how to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, recently I met a man who is from France, and he was sitting outside of a grocery store on one of my travels, and he had a bicycle and a bunch of stuff all around him, and he's eating out of a bread bag. Like he had bought a loaf of bread and he was just eating the bread.
Mm-hmm.
And walking by him, people would think, ugh, dirty homeless guy, right? But you have to pay attention, because I noticed that he had a bicycle with saddlebags, and he's dirty from the road. He's been on a bicycle traveling, and he's got a bunch of stuff with him, and he's eating out of a bread bag. Oh my. But he had on his true cycling cleats, and he had cycling pedals, you know, the kind where your cleats like kick into, I don't even know. I'm not a cyclist, but I do know that the cycling shoes stick into your
Right.
pedals, and they
Mm-hmm.
stay there. They stick
Yeah.
there. So I noticed that he had that, which, you know, you're not going to have if you're just the kind of homeless person who is stuck and you know, not able to get around. So I stopped and said, "Are you on a trip?" And I don't know. I mean, I tend to be like that with people. You know, my husband's like, "Oh, talking to another one. Why are you doing that?" Because I want to know about your life experience. I want to hear your story. And he was an amazing dude. And he is on a trip bicycling from Argentina to Alaska.
What?
He
Wow.
is on this trek, and I forget what city he's going to end in Alaska. But he is part of a farm, a wine, grape growing, wine making farm co-op in France. And he wanted to do this trek. And so he got himself to Argentina for whatever reason. He, you know, vacations there, or maybe went there specifically for this. I don't know. He didn't speak a lot of good English. And he's on his way. And we exchanged email addresses, and he gave me a little screenshot of the information about his place in France,
Mm-hmm.
and we're keeping in touch. So you meet nomads everywhere, and everyone has a different story. And what an amazing story to bicycle
I
from
know.
Argentina to
That's
Alaska.
insane. And meanwhile, other people whose lives are probably not all that interesting at all are thinking this guy is just some homeless dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And meanwhile,
Because they
his
want
life is a
to,
million times richer than theirs would ever be because of the experiences that he has and that he's willing to do, to put himself through, because
yeah.
that's got to be grueling.
I was wondering how many people he'll pass him up all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and he's going through this country, and people are not engaging with him because of whatever hang up they have about what he looks like.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me too. I think we touched on it briefly that while you're traveling, something that comes in very handy is just to be. You have to have a certain level of physical fitness because it can be very grueling. Is that something that you want to speak on?
You have to definitely have enough physical fitness to haul water, climb in and out of your vehicle, put up your tent and take it down, maybe have to hike somewhere to, put your waste where it needs to go properly, to carry that waste. You either have to be strong enough to carry 5 gallons, or you have to have a 50-gallon wheeled receptacle, or you have to have the right kind of vehicle to hook up to hoses, but you have to have the strength and the dexterity to hook the hoses up.
Okay.
Um, you have to sometimes climb up on top of your vehicle, so you need to be able to climb a ladder. You have to be able to use equipment to jump your vehicle. I carry a jump box, so you don't need another car to help you jump your vehicle. You aren't necessarily going to be in a place where somebody's going to come along with jumper cables and a second vehicle to help you. So you have to carry your jump box and know how to use it.
Yeah, which kind of also veers into where I want to, especially for women who are traveling either solo or with kids. I think that
Yeah.
also reduces the amount of danger that they would face having to rely on a stranger to help them with something, having their own jump box, but also having some basic mechanical knowledge, such as being able
Yeah.
maybe to change their own oil or something like that. What basic mechanic skill would you recommend someone like that have so they wouldn't have to necessarily be relying on a stranger or be stuck if there's some place where there isn't a gas station or somebody or a mechanic that could be available?
Yeah. Well, there's a scene in Nomadland where one of the people gets a flat tire, and she's an older person and she can't change it herself. And she doesn't have the tools to change it herself. And she has to get a ride into town. And the lady that helps her, these are both solo traveling women. And the lady that helps her says, you have to figure out a better way. If you get a flat and you don't have the strength to change it yourself, and we weren't here, what would happen to you? You could die out here. And so that's a very real consideration. People have to learn how to change their own tire. And I have to confess, on my huge van, I have never done a practice run, which people should do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm bad. I haven't changed a
That's,
tire in a minute, because we get reliant on somebody around to do it, or I'm just going to call AAA.
right. And there are a lot of places AAA will not go, especially in the nomadic community where you go off road, you go onto gravel roads. They will not leave paved roads to come to
Mm,
you. So you also learn that
yep.
there are whole Facebook groups of rescue people who will come off road and come help you. And so you have to get plugged into certain rescue groups, and they love nothing more than to be able to take all their off-road vehicles out and help somebody.
That's
Uh,
amazing. And I think that could be a resource for really just about anybody, because you never know when you're going to break down. And, again, when you're traveling solo, as a solo woman, we have a whole different set of concerns.
yeah,
You never know when you're going to end up with a flat, someplace weird at night. So
yeah.
that's a good resource to know about. Is there a
And
name?
there are some really good solo women groups, traveling solo women groups on Facebook. The 120,000 strong group that I'm in is a solo women group.
Yeah, if you can maybe just shoot me those resources and I can make links for them for anyone who's interested in doing that, because I know I would. I never know where I'm going to end up. So that would be a good resource to have. Because not for nothing, folks, if the SHTF happens, you cannot call AAA. You may not be able to call that relative who, or that best friend's husband who can show up at 3 a.m. no matter where you are. So there is a certain amount of some basic mechanical stuff that you may want to learn. If you have an uncle or a brother or anybody that's good with cars, just have them, change a tire with them once or twice, or have them recommend what tools you should have in your car in case you just physically can. If the last guy put the lug nuts on too tight, now you really can't get them off. What kind of tools are available that can help you. So that's something you may want to look into just for your regular car, not just if you decide to go van life. I mean, this could be for your regular vehicle.
Well, and I have these little rubberized shelf paper that
Mm-hmm.
are cut into circles for something simple like opening a water bottle. if you don't have the hand strength to open certain things, you need to carry tools to help you do it. I learned from a guy who was a partial amputee who lost one hand to use these with your elbow, the crook of your elbow, and hold your water bottle with one of these so that it doesn't twist. And then you can use your good hand with another one of these on the cap and twist it. So if you are someone who's older, who may have started having arthritis, but you're still traveling, but you're not super strong, these are little tools that you can use to make sure that you are able to get your water.
Yeah, because water, get to your water, open those jars, or even or can openers, because it doesn't help to have a whole bunch of canned goods and you don't have those extra can openers. Even if it's the little
Absolutely.
cheap ones, there's a little emergency ones you can get from the Army Navy store, or just a little cheapie that you can get from the dollar store. And
Right. Right. Yeah. You don't want to carry your electric can opener with
yeah,
you.
that's not going
You
to work out.
definitely need to have the
Yeah,
travel kind.
yeah, because that's what I have, a whole bunch of canned goods, and you have two can openers. What happens if one breaks, or you forget to bring them, or you lose it, or what? So
Yeah.
yeah, learn to love can openers, because there's no sense in
The other
doing
thing
all
that's
that.
important is twist ties. There's this new brand called Gear Tie, which is like rubber coated twist ties of all sizes. I mean, really, really long ones down to little short ones. So important to have all manner of bungee cords, twist ties,
Mm-hmm.
and carabiner clips.
Mm-hmm.
They come in really handy and are necessary for so many things along the way.
Yeah. Okay. And with all of the things that are going on, we were just talking about the hostilities towards nomadic people and the difference between houselessness and homelessness. It's still very underground for a lot of these different reasons. But as more people are going to choose it or have to do it, what do you think can be done to make it easier for a future generation of nomads? Do you think there's any chance that it'll be a community that will be accepted, or municipalities will give you guys a break and say, okay, we accept that there's folks that do this. We need to, and they're contributing, they're paying their taxes, they come here to work or whatever. That would make them more accepting of folks who are in that lifestyle.
I hope so. The hostility against nomadic people goes back to the beginning of humans, I think. The Romney people,
Mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
historically, there's stereotypes about them and about their, destruction and how bad they are. And oh, here they come. And these strangers are coming and descending upon us. And I think that we have to get past that. We have to have the conversation about sit down for coffee with these people and see who they are. Open your eyes and talk to the guy with the bicycle who is just traveling through, and find out that they're not necessarily dangerous. But bigger than that, I think we in the nomadic community need to get basically civic minded and get some legislation going that paves a way for the legality of the lifestyle, because I don't think that's ever been done. I
Yeah,
think
I
it
would
needs to
think it would
be.
make a difference if there's,
I
if
think,
you can see. I mean, just the fact that you can say there's a Facebook group of 120,000.
yeah,
Any aspect of that community is a number I didn't expect. And I'm sure a
yeah,
lot of other folks are shocked too. And I'm sure there's other groups where there's probably more than that.
yeah.
So if it's a numbers reason, I think that you guys are getting the numbers, and you certainly will. I can only imagine that the community is only going to grow. But yeah, if you could form an alliance with different, just like you said, what was that town that you said was very accepting of the traveling folks? If
Quartzite.
hmm they see the value of having you guys come through, because you're coming in, you're patronizing the stores, you're doing the things.
Well,
Maybe.
and Quartzite is home to a annual gem and rock and gem show in January, and one of the largest RV shows happens there in January. So this regularly pretty small town swells to 500,000 people strong in January, February, and then it's back to ghost town again. But
Right.
those 2 months, sometimes people show up in December, but those 2 months, January, February, of all of those dollars that come into that town from all of those people, helps that town live through the non travel months, and keeps it going. And they're I think they're very thankful for that. Unfortunately, that town is trying to grow and cater, and they've gotten some Tesla charging stations, and they're growing in ways that the nomadic community is not super fond of, because they're trying to streamline and
They want to become an actual city or town with regular city in town stuff, as opposed to just being a drive through
right.
type of destination. Oh,
And all of that is less hospitable to the nomadic community.
right. The more that it becomes the standardized city or town, the less hospitable it is for the nomads.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's an interesting proposition for anyone who lives in some of these small Midwestern or East Coast towns, because I have family that comes from a very small town in North Carolina that's dying because people, as soon as they get of a certain age, they want to get out of there. There's very few
Yeah.
job prospects. The older folks are dying off. There's no downtown. You guys might want to consider something what this Arizona town is doing, because that might help shore up some resources, or shore up the bank, or shore up the government money to be more accepting to folks who live that lifestyle, and be a place where they can go, because they're going to go, they're going to do the digital thing, and they're going to spend money in your town.
Wouldn't it be amazing if a whole town would become a nomadic magnet town that would embrace the lifestyle and would be built around the needs of the lifestyle, with parking stalls and possibly shore power hookups, or also the boondocking areas, but not monetize it so that the people who need it most can't afford to go there. The people who would go and help grow that town would help build it economically, even if you're not charging them $100 a night to be there.
Yeah, because
That would,
you would have the volume. So it's kind of like a truck stop for nomads.
oh, it would be
Truck stops are
amazing. I
awesome.
would love to see that.
I'm not a trucker.
Yeah.
I think truck stops are awesome. But
Truck
yeah,
stops are a big, big, big part of the nomadic community, and we are so thankful to truck stops for allowing regular vehicle travel when you're on your road somewhere, to be able to have a place to sleep, to fuel up, to get
shower.
snacks, to use the bathroom, to buy a shower. A lot of them have washer and dryers that coin operated washer and dryers that you can use. They have all of those facilities, and those are a huge, huge boon to people on the road.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been, like I said, me and you, we get to talking, and that's that. It just goes. But I'm grateful for you taking the time to speak with me today, and I am sure you've given folks a lot of things to think about, some new ideas, whether it's someone considering the lifestyle, or someone who's like, oh, I don't have that in my preps, or if Helene comes through seeing what it's done to other people, maybe I should do things differently. So I think we've given some folks some knowledge and some things to think about, which is invaluable. So thank you. And if there's any closing words you have, or if there's a couple of websites or resources you'd like to mention.
Well, I want to say first, I'm sorry for the times I talked over you or interrupted. I get so excited when I am I'm on a roll and I'm on a topic and I'm so excited about it, and I just have to throw the things out there that I don't want to forget. And then I realize I'm interrupting and over talking. And so
All
I
good.
apologize. But secondly, thank you so much for having me on. I think that I love this topic, and I do help people. I do offer coaching for people. I do it at a small fee if anybody wants to learn the lifestyle. And I'm not trying to sell that here. I'm just saying I do offer it. And because there are people who need to just a little nudge to get started, one time consult coaching, and I can give a list of here's what you need and here's the information, and you're on your way. And a lot of it is just self-learn. You learn by doing, and you learn by having those experiences. I think it is so important. And I've also helped plenty of people with, not charging them for a fee, but occasionally I need to have some money to buy my food too. So I do offer that. But I think it's an important topic. I think more and more we're going to see people choosing this lifestyle. People have downsized from full-size houses to tiny houses, and this is, I think, really a next step to being able to utilize all of the resources that a person has. Instead of struggling to make it to get by, they're able to use their resources to buy their food and their clothing, and to maybe enjoy a little bit of life, while also now having to live in a tiny little vehicle space. But it's the ultimate prepper lifestyle, because you learn so much about how to live without all the modern conveniences. And it is ideal for solo people, but also there are couples doing it. There are solo people with kids doing it, and there are whole families with kids doing it. It runs the gamut. It runs the gamut of social class, economic standing. You get the entire strata of people reflected in this community. But it's a very tight-knit community, and I appreciate having been a part of it and hope to get to continue to be a part of it as the years go by. And thank you for letting me share about it.
Great. Well, thank you. And I want to thank everyone for listening. And again, I hope that you're able to receive some useful information that you can incorporate into your life, regardless whether or not you stay in a regular home, or if you decide to try the van life, even if it's temporary, to see if it's for you. We just wanted to give you a different way of looking at how you can live your life without being held to the usual quote unquote standards.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. One more.
Yeah.
Snow and Kurt. There is a couple named Snow and Kurt. The woman is Snow, Snow, and Kurt, Curt, and they have a YouTube channel, and they also are on Instagram. They are on a 10-year van life journey, and they have been in South America, and they are currently in Europe, and they took their van on a boat to Europe, a ship to Europe. And they share videos, but she had a heart attack while they were in South America.
Oh, no.
And they weren't sure if they were going to continue the lifestyle. And so it has been an entire life-changing journey for them. They have had to, the ultimate prepper stuff and the ultimate life-changing experiences. So I would definitely say Snow and Kurt is a worthy place to go and watch their videos and learn about the lifestyle. The good and the bad. They do major adventuring, but also they've done this basic stuff of having to deal with major surgery and major medical issues in other countries.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I will be checking that out too, and hopefully the listeners will do that as well. So thanks again, Shonda Sinclair, ShondaSinclair.com. Also the co-host for the Old Man's Podcast, who does an awesome live show every Monday, just not this Monday, unfortunately. I heard there's some technical issues going on, but generally every Monday they have a great morning show. Very easy listening, humorous, no hate, no politics, no weird things, just folks talking about life stuff. And it's just a good time. And she's a great host, and she's written some great stuff. So follow her if you can. She's on the social. She has her own website. Hopefully you'll get back to the podcast when you have some time. And
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
And then we'll have her again and just see how things are going, if she ever gets back on the road permanently. So thanks to everyone for listening, and see you next week. Thanks. I hope that I've given you some things to think about as you go through the upcoming week. I upload a new podcast every Saturday evening, U.S. Eastern Standard Time. Visit my website, urbanladyprepper.com, where I post a new blog every Wednesday and Friday. While there, sign up for my weekly newsletter, which contains information that usually isn't on the podcast or website, and share your support with a donation or buy some Urban Lady Prepper gear. It helps me continue to grow and provide even more content. Join me on the socials. I look forward to hearing from you. Ladies, stay safe, stay sharp, and be ready. You can